Good morning. It is Monday, July 21st, 2025 here in Sarasota, Florida. And I have been meaning to capture this share for over a week now. And I think I'm finally ready to try to share this very intense thing that took place 2.5 weeks ago. I'm calling it a flash with death experience. Um, because that's the best way I can succinctly describe what happened. Um, and as with everything, I have once again learned to what degree we have to experience something ourselves to really understand, um, to really understand it. Even the most empathetic and sympathetic people and the most sensitive people can only go so far in putting themselves into somebody else's shoes, at least in this realm. And so I even recently with somebody close, my own father had not he had a little brush with fate on the highway less than a year ago, less than 2 years ago. And so I had even heard somebody share their version of this sort of experience relatively recently and realize in retrospect I didn't really get it. Although his was different, but it still took him to the brink to a similar place where there is absolutely nothing you can do when you are on a road. Um, I mean, I guess depending on the situation and the circumstances, you've got some variability, but usually it's still limited to within the road, right? Like it's still limited. And then when you have something go on the road, obviously there's all kinds of factors that come into play. The size of the road, the amount of traffic around you, what is happening, what are the conditions of the weather? There's all kinds of things that can then further limit your options in a situation like that. But the one thing that is undeniable, especially if you're talking highway incident, when you're exceeding 40, 50, 60, 70 plus miles an hour, that's a fucking thing to live through. I can now personally share. It was 6:52 in the morning, two Thursdays ago. It was July 3rd. I was heading to St. Pete, specifically to the St. Petersburg Pier for setup day number 2 for an event, 4th of July run that was taking place the next morning. I was 1.7 miles from my destination when this took place. I was on a very short expansion of highway that goes from primary 275 heading north that breaks off and goes to downtown St. Pete. There are two of those sorts of exits and two highways, 175 and 375 in the direction I was heading. I hit 175 first, I'm heading north. 175 was my exit. We had been dodging insane storms the whole week. The whole first day was nutty and kind of different than regular summertime Florida stuff. All day, lightning, thunder, threatening. Then it would rain, and then it would not, and then it would rain, and the sun would come out. Thursday was predicted to be very similar. So now I'm driving and it's pouring, and we're talking a Florida downpour, right? It's pouring. And whenever that stops, I'm not particularly comfortable driving in the rain. Especially, I'm not, you know, I'm not particularly comfortable driving in the rain. So when that happens, I usually start to say a little mantra. And I always remember Pulp Fiction when he's trying to chill out his girlfriend. He's like, chill out, honey buddy, chill out, like just relax. So I kind of get like this comical to try to quell the anxiety, the very real anxiety that arises. And I just start talking aloud. I'm like, all right, everybody, just fucking chill. Just fucking chill. Nobody be stupid here. It's pouring rain. It's still not fully light. So everybody just chill out and drive, reasonably. So I had already been like in that mantra very consciously as I'm in these final 10 minutes of my drive. I break off onto 175, and the very first exit happens pretty quickly, and it's a two-lane exit, which is unusual. Two-lane exit, and it's sort of going up, and it had just finished the downpour. So now at this point, it's just a hard drizzle, but we had just had the downpour, right? So everything is deluged, right? Like it's wet. And I'm in one of the two lanes. I'm in the nearbound lane going that continues, right? So here's the two exits, the two lanes that exit, and the ramp goes up to the right, and I'm in the closest lane to the exit, still going straight. And all of a sudden, I see the 26-foot truck start to spin, start to 360. I mean, I watched this from the first second it started. And from that second on until I was past this accident, maybe 20 or 30 seconds passed, but it felt like 5 minutes. I mean, time slowed, and I already have an extremely fluid relationship with time. I know for a fact internally that the universal truth is that time is not linear. Time is not how we see it. That's not time. So I already have a very loose relationship with time. And what time did in that period right there still sort of is blowing me away. Quite honestly, I'm still not fully through that experience because it slowed, and every single second took like 20 seconds. So I saw this big 26-foot truck start a 360, what would be a 360 spin, and he was spinning back towards the highway. So that's why I knew instantly, shit, this is heading back towards me. And I was the first vehicle behind this. Okay. So the truck starts to spin, and then it ends up doing a full 360, goes down on its side, on the driver's side. The momentum, all the momentum is going towards the highway. It then slides on the driver door side on the ground, and all of that momentum of the mass of that truck hits the cement barrier that has the exit number sign on it, smashes into that, and therefore all of this broken cement gets strewn into the highway along with a light pole that was next to this, gets thrown into the highway right in front of me. And I want to say I'm sure I was going at least 45, 50 miles an hour at least. And this is maybe it's two football fields in front of me. Like I've driven past the site multiple times. I had to since. And those first times there was some serious PTSD. And so, this reaction time, but everything was slowed. It was like I had the wherewithal to look in my rearview mirror, notice that the next car behind me was behind me a good distance, safe enough for me to get over, and it was already in the far lane. There were hardly any other cars behind me. There were maybe three more total in my lane, and then also ones that were starting to exit. And the rain had stopped enough, but I knew I couldn't slam on my brakes, so I had to apply them, not slamming them on, so be aware of that, and then also be aware of how my timing and the cars around me, and I could see the debris. I mean, obviously my only option was go as far left as you can. So in all of that and all the calculating of, again, instantaneously, I made it by maybe 8 feet, 8 to 10 feet at the most. I barely went around all of this being strewn out in the moment. Like this is in the moment. This isn't like it's already out there. So this debris has momentum. Like it literally, if everything wouldn't have happened at the exact timing, and if the vehicles weren't all exactly where they were, this would have been, I would have hit this shit head on at a very, very, at a rate that would not have likely, I would have been involved in a very, very serious accident. I make it by, and for a second, I thought I was going to stop because again, like not that I have the training, but I look in my rearview mirror and one of the cars exiting on the exit ramp was a cop. So I immediately see his lights go on because he wasn't that far behind me. So he probably witnessed damn near the whole thing from moment one as well. So I'm like, okay, cop on the scene. There's no way I'm going to bring anything to this situation that the cop can't bring. I didn't get myself to where I'm going so I can now freak the fuck out because the shock hit almost instantly. So I got myself the final 1.7 miles. I park and I just lost it. I mean, I lost it. I don't know that I can't remember a time I've ever been that shooken up in such a constricted, small time frame. Obviously, I've had big emotional shit happen throughout my life, but nothing that was like this. Nothing that felt like my soul, like spirit, God, universe, all that is, was giving me a shot to say, if you want to check out, here you go. You can choose to check out here. You always said, Alyson, when it's your time, have it be fast. That's been my only my only wish I've put up to spirit is when I am done with this physical life, because I know death is it's not permanent. Death and the release of this physical vessel. That is from this realm, but the essence of who Alyson is, that can't die. I very much understand that. Now, that doesn't mean that I want to like experience. I still feel as if I had a choice and a say in the matter. I'd rather not have a long, slow decline in this lifetime, and would like for when this vessel is intended to be done and the lifetime of Alyson is intended to be done, I'd like it to be quick. This would have been that. This would have been that. Now, I can say at the moment, this did not come to me. But as soon as I made it through that event the next day and was driving home and was able to have the space to process fully what had happened, it felt instantly like my soul had made a choice. And it made perfect sense. And it was almost like it wasn't. I was like, no way, man, I am not ready to check out of this life. I am just beginning to finally step into who I really am, who I intended to be as Alyson. No fucking way do I want to check out right now. I am not done. I'm just getting started. So if it's up to me, I'm gonna go ahead and stick around. And like I said, I don't know. I believe our souls have free will in these vessels. And that's the part that's the co-creation with God, source, divine, all that is. Ultimately, if I was intended to die, I would have died. But there is, to an extent, there's a free will choice. Now, again, in that moment, but if a part of me had been ready to go, maybe I don't react the way that I did. But I did react the way that I did, and I absolutely was renewed in a way. I just feel like I re-upped. And for me, that means re-upping on my soul's mission. And I don't know that I'll ever know in full what that is, but I certainly believe I know in part what Alyson is really here to do. And I certainly know to what degree Alyson has stepped into that in this past 18 months since partnering, because that is when it shifted big time. And that is what has provided me now very real somethings to point to on how the dream of dreams of how Alyson works and what Alyson does for work out in this world after a very long 13 years. It's manifesting. And I survived that crash to re-up on, you better believe, after these past 13 years, getting to this point when I thought it was going to take one, I'm not checking out now if I have a say in it. And nothing has been the same, honestly, since that happened, that experience. And I'll just use the phrase lately. I'm humbled and honored with what it means, what it continues to mean to live a purposeful, conscious, aware, sovereign, independent, unique life. And that's what happens from my perspective when you remember yourself at the soul level. And you remember that your soul chose to come down here to earth in this time space dimension at this time to play your human character. It it is a completely way to engage in life, but you would never know it that somebody is living that way. I would argue you can feel it, but by straight looking at somebody with nothing else to go on, we're getting to the point where the light, their aura, will have a certain appearance where you will be able to tell if somebody is living with that awareness. Because lots of us are out there and we're finally beginning to find one another. And the new earth, for lack of a better way of calling it, thank you, Eckhart Tolle, a new earth is emerging. And there is a split happening for those that want to go on the version that is going to continue with lack and fear dominating and giving your power away, playing the victim and fighting about our differences, and that's going to still exist. If you want to choose that, have at it. But there's another choice. There's another choice. Hard to choose it if you don't know there's another choice. And I know for me, I didn't know there was another choice until my spiritual awakening. So if there's one thing I'm just here to say is we have a choice. We have a choice. You don't have to settle for fear-based world, lack-based world, competition, fighting, divisiveness, angry. You don't have to settle for that. But you have to choose otherwise. And that other version doesn't look anything like the one that I'm leaving behind. And I kind of think with what happened on the highway at 6:52 on Thursday, July 3rd, I think I've already clearly made my choice of which timeline I'm on. And now it's just letting go, surrendering, and trusting spirit to line me up with to continue to line me up with what that means. Have a good day.